Nature said, form is a state when there is order, organization, and life vitality. And nature considers a garden to exist wherever humans define, initiate, and interact with form to create a specialized environment. Gardens do not exist in the wild unless you consider the planet nature's garden, which it is. But in the wild on its own, a garden doesn't exist. You don't go out and find zucchini growing on a nature trail unless somebody's dropped the seed. It simply doesn't happen. It is a man-made thing. It is as man-made as polyester. And polyester is nothing but oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon that has been put together in a special way. Oxygen is nature, hydrogen is nature, and carbon is nature. It's as much a part of nature as the zucchini, the squash, and the watermelon out there. It's just been put together. It's a garden, actually, polyester. We initiated, we defined it, we initiated it, and we interacted with the form to create a specialized environment. A garden can be, and these are gardens that grow in soil, managed forests, landscaping, farms, potted plants, and anything else you can consider that's growing in soil as long as you define it and you interact with it and you initiate it. However, soilless gardens include waterways, the atmosphere, aquariums, livestock ranches, trout farms, a home, large and small businesses, individual offices within a business, a classroom, a college study program, a children's playground, an assembly line, a car, the human body, the space shuttle, a toxic waste dump, community landfills, parking lots, national parks, the New Jersey Turnpike, really, an AIDS research lab, a pharmaceutical research and development lab, athletic training programs, and a movie production company. They are all defined, initiated, and interacted with in form to create, they're all specialized environments. On their own, they would not exist unless we participated. A teacher wrote me about asking nature to assist her. She asked nature to assist her in creating an atmosphere in her classroom for maximum learning and healing for the students she worked with and for herself. Period. She wanted an atmosphere for maximum learning and healing. It was to be in her classroom, nobody else's classroom, and it was to be for her students and herself. Nature's first directive to her was to concentrate on teaching the children how to ask for the things that are available to them in this teaching environment. Ask for what you want to learn. She worked with nature to redesign her classwork in order to accommodate the school's requirements for the class according to nature's input. She wrote that she ended up with new and creative ideas for teaching the material. The thing that really caught me on this was, if you said to me, assist in creating an atmosphere in a classroom for maximum learning and healing for students and the teacher, I would not have come up with this. And yet, when I read this and talked to her about it, I realized, now I understand what a teaching environment really is. Now I get it. I felt like I had been transported back to like Plato or Socrates' time, where teaching was so multifaceted. The quality of the teaching was such that she was invited to join this teachers group because everybody was starting to notice something was different. And that's what's going to happen with you. People are going to notice that you're doing something very differently, and it's extraordinarily successful. Extraordinarily. A couple of months ago, one of my staff members was going over her monthly finances, and she was wondering, how in the world am I going to pay these bills? At the same time, a house went on the market. And this house was perfect for her. Absolutely perfect. I knew it. And she, on her own, went by to look at the house. And she sat down afterward, and she knew it was perfect. And she sat down afterwards and she tried to figure out how could she buy the house. The answer she came to quickly was no. There was no way. Wrong timing. Wrong timing. How often do you do this? Wrong timing. Wrong. No. I said to her, "You're crazy. This is an excellent house for you. You're crazy. It's a house on 10 acres. Try for it. Go for it. Open the coning. Do something. Go for it." So she opened a coning and she created a DDP to buy this house. And she would do what she needed to do to get to the point to buy the house. She started reading. She got advice from people who knew something about this. She started doing processes with the DDP and balancing and stabilizing the thing. She shopped around for banks. She shopped around for mortgage brokers. She was doing coning updates every day. She'd open the coning, she'd say, "Okay, today I learned this, this, and this is what I did. All right, next step, got it." She didn't have the money for this. Not only didn't she have the money, she didn't have the ability to borrow the money for that because of her finances. So she gets to the impossible down payment and boom, in walks a relative she's never met who calls up out of the blue. "Why, I'm Uncle so-and-so. I'd like to come visit you." And this was the worst possible timing for someone to come in. She said, "All right, come on." So this guy comes. They hit it off very well. And he spends, I think, 2 or 3 days. I think it's 2 days, actually. The morning he's going to leave, she's making breakfast. They're eating together. And he's talking about how wonderful her house, her present house, feels. And he's bringing up the whole discussion about houses. And she said, "Yes, it is wonderful, but right now I'm working to buy a house. Of course, it's really tricky, but it's really interestingly falling in place." And he says, "Really?" And he gets her to talk some more, and he says, "You know, I just tried to give a bunch of money away to a foundation, and they screwed it up, and I ended up not giving it to them, and I have this money I'm trying to give away. Would you like it for the house?" And she can't believe it. This woman worked her ass off completely all the way through this thing. 2 months after, yes, and at the closing, the banker and the realtor are talking about what a miracle this particular sale is. They had more requests for mortgages in August than they've ever had in the history of mortgages. People who are running papers through are taking them home until 10 or 11 o'clock at night just to keep up with some semblance of what is happening. She put in her papers a week before the closing. The closing had been scheduled, and she put all the papers in a week before, and 24 hours prior to the closing, they still hadn't had the survey. So there's electronic stuff running all over the country, and they're sending money back and forth, and they're getting the survey guy out here, and they get into the closing, and by God, there it is. She ends up 2 months after sitting down at her kitchen table asking, "I wonder how I'm going to pay these bills." She ends up with a new house, all of her bills paid, and money left over for new furniture and a car. So, go ahead, argue with me. The bottom line to this that I really want to hammer home is this chart. There is nothing, I repeat, that you can create that is not form, is not nature, and does not operate or function within the universal laws of nature. Everything you do, everything you create, everything you come up with, everything that is in your life is form, it's nature, and it operates and functions within the universal laws of nature. So, is co-creative science and these principles, are co-creative science and these principles, important to something other than a vegetable garden? It's important to everything.